Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Gabriela. Let me actually change my name. I'm a community worker at the Sydney Community Forum. I am leading one of the projects at the Sydney Community Forum to give support for international students in New South Wales. And one of the main questions we got from students was issues related to visas. So that's why we decided to organize this Q&A with Andre from Achieve Migration. Thank you so much, Andre, for accepting this partnership.
Pleasure.
So just before we start, I'm going to do an acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders, both past, present, and future. As immigrant of this land, I'm contributing to the dispossession of the land of the Australians' First Peoples land. This land was never ceded. It was and it will always be Aboriginal land. If you know where you're zooming from, what is the traditional land that you're zooming from, I encourage you to put on chat. Hello, Marites. So this event, Andre will explain a little bit more, but this event, the main goal is for us to touch, to kind of go through some general aspects of student visa in Australia. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to talk about cases individually. First, because a lot of investigation is needed to go through specific cases, and we don't have time for that. So it will be more general questions. If you want a question to be answered, please put on chat like Samantha did. Thank you so much, Samantha. And I'm gonna read them, or Andre, and we're going to go through all of those questions.
Perfect.
Sorry?
Perfect, excellent.
Yeah, great, good. Another topic for those watching this recording, we are holding this meeting on the 29th September 2021. Be aware that information is changing rapidly. So just be sure if you're watching it next week or next month, probably the information will be different. So it's better to search for the most updated information. I think that's all from me. So Andre, if you could just introduce you quickly before we start answering the questions.
All right, thanks. So my name is Andre. I'm a migration agent since 2009. I have migrated to Australia and arrived actually in 2005 as a student visa. And I have been, excuse me, and I have been, dealing with migration, assisting all the applicants in different type of visas, including students, mainly with review process and inquiries and, creating and implementing strategies. So thanks for the opportunity. I'm really pleased to be able to be part of the community and assist everyone in the best way possible. Yeah, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to guide everyone through it.
Great, thank you so much. So, let's jump in to the questions. The first one, maybe we can just go through a little bit of the situation, those
Sure.
Opening of the borders, is opening, is not opening, when is going to happen. And and then Samantha posted something asking about which students are going to be given preference for arrival in Sydney. If you can start with that, would be good.
Yeah, all right. So recently, I think first of all, we need to understand that Australia itself, the states has a lot independence, different from some countries. So that's why we can see New South Wales talking about opening up the borders for international students. Just recently was a post where everyone's commenting. But it is an intention for them to do 250 international students per fortnight to enter Australia. The thing that I think it's quite interesting for us to understand, it is a plan, and it does not, this is my understanding, does not give any preference in general to a specific type of student. The only thing that got my attention when we see the frequent asked questions or the FAQ is that they say, well, what about if I'm in Australia and I want to leave and then reapply for a student visa? Let's say you are holding a 408 or that COVID visa and you want to reapply and leave, reapply and see family and have the opportunity. They don't answer if this is going to be possible or if this is going to be prioritized. But also they inform as well that the communication for which students be selected is through the education provider, meaning colleges, universities, and everything else. So it's not clear for anyone how is this selections it's going to be done. My understanding through these questions is that the communication with the student will be done from the education provider. So not education agent, but education provider. So the school itself will be in contact. And though the school as well will be the one responsible to organize the whole quarantine process, if you guys know what I mean. Yeah, so I think also that something got my attention was the fact that they say that, well, what about if I'm not selected to come into Australia by the education provider, by the university? How does it work? And then the answer pretty much, or the instruction that they gave so far is that students who are not being selected will continue to be able to continue to study online. And I'm not sure if this is the whole idea of someone, international student, enrolling into a course, but I think there is some questions there that I would wait to be answered before I be saying, oh, this is going to be great news, because it's not a full clear pathway. Yeah. So in terms of Samantha's question here, do you know which students are going to be given preference for arrival in Sydney? We don't. Are skilled visa being processed from overseas? There are two states, if you don't mind me answering this, Gabriela. There are two states, Samantha, that currently are processing applications, to my mind. South Australia, who just recently published another 70 occupations, so professions, and Tasmania for sure. Yeah, also offering overseas applicants for specific visas. So under the skilled migration, 491 for Tasmania for sure. In South Australia, I haven't double checked if the 70 occupations are open for 190 and the 491. Yeah.
Okay. And
if it gets too technical, Gabriela, just let me know, because then I can make it lighter.
No, that's okay. And for the participants as well, if you have any further questions from the things we are discussing, just put in the chat and we can go a bit more deep into any of the topics we're talking about. So I think it's important to highlight, like you said before, though this acceptance of international students in Australia so far is only an intention. Is that correct? Is
correct.
It confirmed it's going to happen?
Well, the state government has demonstrated that they have been implementing a plan, right? So we have the understanding that's going to go ahead, but we just don't know when this is going to work, when it's going to start exactly. So without this being clear for everyone, it kind of gives you, okay, we have the intentions, we will do it, but it's not fully published. How is everything's going to be working? Yeah.
Okay, so there isn't a date, right?
No, there is no date yet. What we've seen is that, and I think one of the questions there as well, it's about the vaccination or the criteria that's going to be applicable. So you have to be fully vaccinated, and then only by vaccines accepted by the Australian government. So in AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and Moderna, I think that's it's called, the third one, just recently one. Yeah.
Okay, good. The last question from Samantha. She's asking if you would recommend networking with companies and recruiters on LinkedIn to secure internship for when they get here in Australia.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a really believer. I do believe a lot in networking for internship. I think it's a great way for an overseas student or recent graduates to enter into the workforce, if possible, to do an internship. Because it's something that, as we are aware, the Australian labor or recruitment market requires a lot, is local experience. So if you have the program or the opportunity for you to have some local experience, even if it's done through the internship, I think it's a very good opportunity for you to enter in Australia.
Great. Okay. So Ishmamu, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. He said that his university mentioned that students in the second or third year will be given preference.
Okay, thanks for sharing. I'm not aware of that yet. But that'll be good. Even if you can have and maybe share with Gabriela, if they send it to you, Ishmael, in writing on the email, that'd be great for everyone to be aware of it. Yeah.
Hopefully it's an official information.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so I cannot see any further questions in the chat, so I'm going to read some of the questions that people sent us on our social medias. So the first one is about the visa 190, and the question is a skill assessment. So questions on skill assessment for visa 190. If I have overseas experience in the occupation I'm applying for, do I need to have this assessed if I already have a positive skill assessment for my experience here? Do I need to do this before submitting my expression of interest? I'm going to paste the question in the chat so you can read it.
Yeah. Okay, so if I have an overseas experience in the occupation that I'm applying for, do I need to have this assessed if I already have a positive skills assessment for my experience here? Do I need to do this before submitting an expression of interest? Okay, so what we have to remember or keep in mind is that when we are submitting a skilled migration program visa, so 190, 189, 491, which is the points test program, it is ideal that you have have some sort of guarantee that how many points you have reached. And the best way for you to do this is for you to have completely ready to go your positive skills assessment, your evidence of your work experience, and English level, of course, qualifications, and then NATI, which is the community language, and any other points that you are claiming. It's essential that you have that, because once your expression of interest is selected, you cannot edit that information. Why I'm saying this is because we've seen in the past people selecting that they have, let's say, an IELTS examination or English test examination results with a superior or results which allow them or give them more points. And then once this expression of interest is selected and they are unable to demonstrate this English level, they pretty much you burn your own opportunity for you to actually be and proceed with the visa application, which you've been waiting through this expression of interest skill select. Now, coming back to that question, especially about the skills assessment, is that some skills assessment authority, and then to name a few, VETAssess, Architecture Australia, TRA, Engineers Australia, ACS, Australian Computer Society, any of them, they do offer, generally speaking, they do offer two types of skills assessment. So generally speaking, they do offer one that would just meet the criteria through the qualification and some work experience, for example, VETAssess, TIA requires that too, but also they offer something that to say, okay, so after that, I can give you an analysis for you to claim your work experience. So coming back to this question specifically, is that if I already have a positive skills assessment from my experience here, is it appropriate for me to redo this skills assessment? So resubmit the skills assessment or update my skills assessment, depending on what authority, for I can then show my experience from overseas. Yes, you can do this because and then you know exactly how many years of experience have been recognized by that authority, but also it's not mandatory, meaning that even if you submit an application or an expression of interest where you say that you have a positive skills assessment and you are recognized in Australia as, let's say, an engineer, you can actually say, for the purpose of this skills assessment, I only require to have these criteria, which I have met. Now I also have this work experience. So I have proven that I have this work experience. The only thing that it would not work this way, so separate, is that this work experience is only from overseas. So let's say if you used a qualification that you completed in Australia or while you're studying here to meet this criteria and your work experience was previously, I would question myself, why have you not disclosed this to the skills assessment if it was relevant? And also if I was a case officer, someone assisting your application, I would question myself about this, but again, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory for you to have this separate, as long as you are able to explain and be sustained, declare, making a statement why you have not. If they question you, I think should be fine. Yeah.
Okay. So it's better to do that before submitting her expression of interest.
Correct. So
yeah.
Yes, to have the information ready to go.
Ready to go. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Ishmael sent a question in the chat. I think it's a little bit specific, but maybe you can try to answer it in a more general way. So he said, I have an ICT in business double degree and will complete my degree next year. Could you explain how the points system would work for me to get a PR? What ICT stands for, just to clarify for other people? ICT?
Well, ICT, it's a solution for when you do a specific solution based in IT services.
Okay.
Yeah. Shmaul, I think it's a good. I think it's a good question because if you complete your degree, so a bachelor degree here in Australia, could you explain how the point system would work for me to get a PR? Again, they will be looking, well, if you have arrived after, I don't know, maybe in the last 5 years or so, you'll be eligible to apply for a temporary visa after you're graduating from this course, which gives you the benefit is to give you enough time, let's say this way, considering I'm not sure how many points you got, but that'll be interesting for you to maintain your legal status in Australia while you wait to have your expression of interest selected. So let me just go back a little bit on this, Gabriela, and explain a little bit more about it. So when we submit an expression of interest, imagine all of us are applying for one position available, and this criteria is assessed through your age, your English level, your work experience after qualification, your, if you're single, married and everything, if you speak 2 languages. And each one of these criteria will give you enough points for you to reach a minimum of 65 points. Now, the fact of you reaching 65 points makes you eligible to submit what we call an expression of interest or an EOI. Now, some occupations require higher points than 65, as you can imagine. So when we talk about ICT, it gives you an opportunity to do an ICT business analyst, but also gives an opportunity to do, a system analyst. So it depends which area you're going to be focusing mainly, right? And also the electives subject that you're doing on your degree. So with this, in your case specific, Ishmael, is that my understanding is that you'll be completing your course, you're going through the process of skills assessment, and by then you'll be able to submit an application for expression of interest. Now, while you in Australia, and considering that you are eligible to apply for a temporary graduate visa, so class 485, after completing your degree in Australia, you can wait for this expression of interest to be selected. Because what a lot of people do not understand or gets confused sometimes is that the fact that you have submitted an expression of interest, you can wait and have your visa expired. An expression of interest is not a visa application. It's just an interest and does not allow and does not grant you a bridging visa A to maintain your legal status in Australia. So it's important for you to have a valid visa or legal status while you're waiting for UI to be selected. Once it's selected, and then you are invited to submit a visa application and you pay the visa application process itself, is that when a bridging visa A will be granted.
Okay. If you have any further questions, Mamu, just please put in the chat.
Please.
Meanwhile, we're gonna answer the question from Ina. I believe that's how I pronounce your name. My visa was issued last 2020, but due to the pandemic, I was unable to fly. If I arrive in Australia by 2022, how long will be my visa extended? Will it depend on how long before I finish my master's degree?
Good question, Ina, and I'm sorry to hear that you missed the date to come into Australia in 2020. We've seen visas being extended automatically for another 6 months for you to enter in Australia. But when does your visa will expire? Do we know an idea? It says that if I arrive in Australia by 2022, how long will March 2023? Perfect. So we've seen visas being extended for automatically by 6 months, which is a positive attitude by the Department of Home Affairs. I'm really not capable to tell you right now how long would the visa be extended. And also, yes, it will depend or can be related to you finishing your master's degree. So if your course has been delayed because of the pandemic and it's going to be extended, let's say, until December or September 2023, I do believe that you would have the capacity to update your confirmation of enrollment or COI or COE, and then request an extension. Now, remember that the department has put in place specific procedures on applicants that needs to extend the visa because of the pandemic. It's a good option for you to do a bit of research on that subject to make sure that once you get in, make sure that you are prepared for this extension if needed be.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So Marites just posted, Ina, thank you for the answer. And Marites just sent 2 questions. The first one is, as an international student with subclass 500 visa, can I apply my children and my husband under my visa? And how much money do we need to require? How much money I think we have to show is required to show.
And then the second question is Master of International Business, MIB, is a pathway to PR. Okay. So as a question number 1, Maritis, thanks for the questions. So the first one, is, as an international student with the 500, can I apply for my children and my husband under my visa? Yes, you can, but keep in mind that you must have declared them on your initial visa application. Just make sure that there is no clash of information. And then also depending on the age of your children, they may be required to be enrolled into a public school or a Catholic school or something that's your best interest. And how much money do I need? It's necessary to meet the criteria. It depends on your school. And also you can do the COE course search, and then they'll show you some of the requirements. Sometimes the school provide the Department of Immigration by the checklist of immigration do not request this. Sometimes they do, so you need to do the thing. But then bringing back your second question, and which I think is related to your first question, I would like to say that in WA, so Western Australia, if you are an international student studying master's degree, I do believe that children are not required to pay for public school.
Okay. I'm sorry, sir. I just want to ask, that is show money. Because they are telling that we need to have a show money when we apply for the family.
Correct. Yeah.
Is
Let me
that?
just get the link here. Sorry, go on. I'm listening.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, pleasure. Please. I'm just gonna ask you what is the college as well.
I don't have any idea about the school there because we are here in Qatar. I just want to apply for my kids to be with me while I'm studying there in Australia.
You are in Australia right now?
No, I'm in Qatar right now, Doha, Qatar.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I just want to check if I can able to sponsor them and to bring them there while I'm studying.
With you. Yeah. But were you thinking to do this while you were studying the Masters of International Business?
Yeah, I'm doing MIB, and I just want to clarify if MIB is a pathway to PR also.
Okay, got it. All right, let me just give you a source of information which I think is good for anyone. This is a website that what I was mentioning about. If you go to this website and you complete with your country of origin, if that's what they ask, select education provider and display evidence. So you do a quick research, they'll give it to you what exactly information it's required. So I think it's a good thing for you to have if anyone's coming to Australia to study. And in terms of the Master of International Business, MIB, I do believe that it's a good occupation to have, considering the diversity of activities that you can deliver. Now, if you are completing, this is my understanding, if you're completing this MIB overseas, gotta make sure that maybe how is that recognized in Australia? What are the pathways for you, or what are the occupation? What's the occupation that you're going to be applying for? For example, we see Ishmamu here already talking about different authorities. So, and then the authority, what are the criteria for this authority? So to make sure that you are prepared for this process in advance, because maybe you can, target or make sure that your course reflects this necessity.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Gabriela, thank you very much also.
Thank you. Okay. So Ishmamu asked, when should I apply for my skills to be assessed by ACS and VETASES?
Oh, VETASES, yes.
VETASES, okay.
Ishmamu, if I'm not mistaken, you're doing do you have a degree back overseas, or this is your first degree?
So this is my first degree. I'm doing an ICT and accounting double degree.
I thought it was business.
I'm also concerned whether I should just try for one occupation, because I can also come in as an accountant, But as an ICT business analyst or a systems analyst, I'm also a bit concerned about that as well.
Okay, I think first of all, what you need to assess is that if the content of the course you satisfy the ACS, yeah. And you're talking about on the message you talk about business, not accounting. Hence, I think it's ACS and VETASES. But generally speaking, I think my suggestion is for you to double check both criteria as ACS and VETASES, as you mentioned, to make sure that you meet them. So generally, VETASES, it will require a work experience after for full skills assessment. So so keep in mind on that. Generally speaking, I would say to you for you to start this process after you're graduating.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Ishmael. So I'm gonna get another question from our social media. I'm posting on the chat now, and it says, where can I find the acceptable points as in the points that make me likely to be invited for my occupation?
Okay, that's great. Can we just go back to Samantha and then answer her question as well? I think it was in the chat. I have a few questions. It is possible to include a partner on my next visa, the post-study, so the 485. We've been dating for a year and living together for 3 months. Also, we are not married or engaged. Okay, it would be better for my partner to come over on a holiday visa, then be able to look for a job here. Are students able to transition straight from a student to a permanent residency visa? Okay. So Samantha, 3 questions. So the first one, we have to remember that any relationship is assessed by the Department of Home Affairs into 4 pillars. So financial aspect about the relationship, household, social and commitment to each other. So if you can cover all of this and also update the Department of Immigration that you are dating, so meaning that you want a de facto, genuine, exclusive relationship with your partner, that'll be appropriate. You can do this by using the form 1022, or in some cases going to the IMI account and updating them directly. By law, if you are de facto, you don't need to be living together, but also you cannot be living apart on a permanent basis. So this brings you to my next comment here. That's my understanding is that he's overseas or your partner is overseas. Will be better for my partner to come over on a holiday visa. Ideally, yes, because then you can meet this criteria. However, when would the border be open? I think this is the $1 million questions. And then be able to look for a job here for sure. Everyone deserves better quality of life in Australia, so whatever. Are students able to transition straight from a student visa to a permanent residency visa? Yes. There are visa, for example, called 186 Employer Nomination Scheme, that some students be able to meet the criteria and then with the support of a business, Australian business, to apply for permanent residency or even meet a high number and be invited for the 190, 189, and then apply for that, or even in the relationship. So there are different pathways for you to change your student visa to permanent residency straight away, for sure. I hope that I clarified your questions. Gabriela, just going back to the other question, thank you. Where can I find acceptable points as the points that made me likely to be invited for my occupation? If you go to Skill Select, you will see that the invitations have been, the rounds of the invitations that have been occurring. Unfortunately, it's not a very complete data because we know that New South Wales and other states have been inviting applicants or selecting expression of interest, but the data, how many points the applicants have been invited with, has not been disclosed yet. So the Skill Select will give you an idea of how many points that group of occupations have been selected, but yeah, not very something that I would say go there to make sure that you are in.
Okay. So I don't think we have any further questions from the people attending the call. So we have another one from our social media that says, I'm currently studying a course with a pathway to an occupation on the skill occupational list. I also have an overseas qualification that is related to this occupation. Will I get additional points once I complete my course?
Yes, you will. For if you complete the 2 years course in Australia, at least 2 years, you meet what they call Australian study criteria. However, keep in mind that some people get confused. For example, oh, I did a bachelor degree overseas, and also I did a VET course in Australia. So according to the points test, I will have 15 points for a bachelor and 10 points for a VET. So in this case, it will be 25. You only get one criteria. And most likely, of course, you want to get the the 15, which is the bachelor degree or master's degree. So if, for example, if you have a bachelor degree overseas and a master's degree in Australia, you cannot get 30 points. You only get 15. But you will get the 5 points for study and meeting the criteria for 2 years study in Australia. Then also there is a criteria for you to study regional if this is the situation.
Great. One more question.
Yes.
Currently, I'm in a bridging A while waiting to get a medical for my student visa application. Is there a possibility wherein my application for a student visa is rejected, even though I'm already studying and have completed one semester already?
Okay. I think there is few aspects there that you have to keep in mind. I think the fact that the medical centers are closed, so they're not processing medical examinations. The Department of Immigration is aware of all of that, of course, and I don't think that would be appropriate for them to refuse a visa under these conditions. And if you applied onshore because you have a bridging visa A, if you have a negative outcome, you can then seek review of the decision with the tribunal. Is there a possibility? No, something that I want to just to bring your attention on that is that keep in mind that because the visa has not been granted or finalized yet, if you have completed all your studies, this may be cause a reason for a further assessment from the Department of Home Affairs. And puts your application a bit in risk. So yeah, keep that in mind. One of solutions is to extend your enrollment.
Okay, great, thanks. Samantha sent another question. Please, Samantha, just keep asking if you have more questions. It doesn't have to be the last one. We still have 20 minutes. So she's asked when they expect visitors' visas to open and the average time to process. Another question is, if you come over on a visitor visa, can you apply for work? If you are successful, can you apply for a working visa while you are in Australia? And the last question is about hotel quarantine. What are the expected costs for the 7 days hotel quarantine?
Okay, so when expected the visas to open? So visas still being granted in accordance to the exemption criteria. So family members, children, or family residents or citizens of Australia. So we do have to meet anyway the why it's necessary for them to receive this visa and then enter in Australia. So, but I cannot tell you, I'm unable to confirm to you when exactly will the Department of Immigration open, generally speaking, for general visitors visa to apply. But in the case of having a visitor visa granted and you being able to stay in a hotel quarantine, I don't have the top of my mind, Samantha, what are the costs? At the moment, but I think it's approximately $3,000, if I'm not mistaken, approximately that. But coming back to your question, if I'm on a visitor visa, can I apply for a working visa? And then I'm reading here as a sponsorship visa. If this is the case, yes, as long as you meet the criteria for that visa. And if your visitor visa doesn't have any conditions attached to it that limit is that you cannot submit an application onshore. So it's a no further stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. We also had a question about visas that we required a IELTS result for to lodge the application, and because the exams are not being it's not happening right now. What is the solution, or are they giving bridging visas to those students or not, or what's happening?
Well, it's not an official notice, but we've seen the Department of Immigration being more understandable about the situation that, let's say, you completed a course and you're eligible to apply for a temporary graduate visa 485. And this visa requires for you to submit an application with the evidence that you have set the examination and you have met the criteria, generally speaking. And if you are unable to do that, some people decide to take the risk and submit an application for the best and see how it goes, right? And the Department of Immigration say, well, show me you met the English criteria. This is not an official letter from the Department of Home Affairs or anyhow, but we've seen cases that have been approved, even if the applicant have provided the English results later on. So it's something that you can take the risk. But if you decide to take the risk, be aware that it is a criteria at time of application. So even if you go to the tribunal will apply the same law that it is a criteria time of application. You have not met the criteria, therefore the visa should not be approved.
Okay.
If you don't want to take the risks, one of the options is to extend your current visa, so maintain your legal status in Australia, and therefore submit an application later on. If you decide this, I highly suggest you to engage a professional who are able to check the law to make sure that you will meet the criteria in different stages, in all the stages involved. So the new visa and maybe later on the temporary graduate visa or the other visa that requires your English level results.
Great. Thank you so much. I don't think we have any further questions. But when we were talking early this week, you mentioned the importance for students to read the terms and conditions of their schools and how much it changes and how much it impacts when you have to withdraw from courses. Do you want to just give a quick overview and an explanation of the importance for students to read the terms and conditions before enrolling in colleges and universities?
Sure, for sure. So it is, I understand that a lot of us students, right, who have, engaged or is about to start a course, believes that just by signing that piece of paper where the university or the college require you to sign, that you say terms and agreements and everything, just sign here, 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 and you sign, you're thinking, oh, okay, I understood the whole thing. Well, it's quite important to understand that when you're signing, you are agreeing to the terms and conditions that are imposed by the school. So it is expected that in that terms and conditions, you're fully aware that, or if you want to change schools, or if you want to give notice, or how does it work, right? So I think this is a good question for you to ask the school, if you have direct access to the school, but also for you to take your time to say, oh, can I read this and come back to you in the next days? Just for you to have fully understanding what you're signing. And even if it's not clear because of level of English or because some word or because some reference that they use, I think it's your right to exercise to come back to them and say, excuse me, can you explain this for me? This is not clear for me. And even better, in any case, and then this is coming back more into my practice, is to have in writing. Oh, hi, thanks very much for the opportunity to enroll in your school. Could you please clarify the following parts of the terms and conditions or the agreement that we are engaging with the following. And then you have this in writing. And keep this habit as well of any communication with the school. Sometimes we keep very informal. Oh, hi, you know, how you going? Good. Oh, about this, this, and this. And maybe this is something very important that you're going to be needing in the future. So it's a habit. My suggestion is just for you to say, oh, hi, can I get your email? Yeah. And then you send an email. Say, oh, thanks for everything. This is what we discussed. And this is what information I'm going to follow as per advised. And then knowing that the school will have compliance, if it's not fully correct what you mentioned on your email, they will reply back to you. But otherwise, you do have a documentation showing that you received that advice from the school, and this is exactly what they advised you with. So in any case, if you need to contest something later, or if you want to change the schools or anything like this, you have some sort of evidence that what was going on. Yeah, so my idea, guys, is that, you know, the clearer the better for everyone, both parties. Everyone knows where you stand, what's the best way to do, and there is no questions. So you can make a conscious decision about enrolling, continuing, doing anything in the future.
Okay, Samantha just sent another question. If you apply for a regional visa but are unable to find work there, can you apply for a job in another state?
What visa exactly, Samantha?
Let's see if she responds. I don't think she mentioned it earlier in the chat. There she goes. What visa we are talking about here, Samantha?
Yeah. So when you say apply for a regional visa,
so the visa would be for a skilled work visa.
Okay, so 491
for engineering.
Yeah. Yeah, probably a 491.
Probably
Okay.
491.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. So the 491 is that it's ideal that, okay, first of all, once you apply the 491, the state that been selected you, or the region that been selected you, it's not guaranteeing you by any chance that you will have a job in that area. What they know is that there is a need, and in accordance to the plans that they have, consultant, chamber of commerce, you know, business associations and everything, there is a need for those positions. Or even the region says, oh, we will need people on this area because we have projects that require this type of activity. But they're not guaranteeing you that you have a job in that field that you apply, or occupation. The good thing about the 491, once this visa is granted, is that you are not, it's not mandatory that you work on your occupation once you get this visa and you move to that area. So for example, if you apply as an engineer and you are selected and you've been, your UI was selected, you apply for the visa, immigration granted you the visa, you have the period, you move to the area, got there, here's my resume, nothing. Okay, now you have a goal, which is to become a permanent resident of Australia. If the criteria is that you have worked and lived and, you know, study and everything else for you in that regional area for at least 3 years out of the 5 years validity of the 491. So instead of you being, if you are unable to work as an engineer, nothing holds you back to work as a baker, as a coffee shop owner, or, you know, a consultant or something like this, as long as you meet the criteria that the 3 years of declaring the income for you to meet the permanent residency criteria. Now, something else that comes up my mind, and we discussed with other migration agents and being in contact with the professional association, is that would be possible for me to move areas or move states and then not being affected by the 491 visa conditions. By law, and this is a bit confusing in that sense, is that by law, nothing holds you back from you moving to another area. However, the state can actually cancel their support for the 491. So generally speaking, my suggestions was for you to stay in that region. Yeah.
Okay.
And to avoid this, I think something like that, and to avoid this, a good idea is just to do a bit of research. I know that sometimes we don't have much right to choose the area that we can apply for the 491, but if we can do some bit of research and everything, maybe, you have two options, and then you can make a preference and do a research about companies that may be interested in being in contact. Look, I'm applying for this. Do you think I can come around to have a coffee? Maybe it's Australian, it's very open for you to approach them and talk and explain your idea, and coming back to that idea of the internship as well, if possible, of course, financially for everyone. That'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, good. Great. I think we're starting running out of time. It's almost 6 p.m. now. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I'm gonna put in the chat Andre's Facebook page, Active Migration. He posts some information there, and it's very helpful to follow his page. I'm also posting our organization Facebook page, because we also post a lot of information there that is very useful for international students. And we will try to do these meetings, this Q&A every 2 weeks, not always with Andre, with other migrant agents. So just keep an eye on our Facebook page. We'll let you know there when we're going to host the next one. And I think that's all for now. Thank you so much. Andre, if you could stay over just for 5 minutes so I talk to you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ina. Thank you, Marites.
Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Ok. Deixa eu parar o recording aqui.